Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I read stories off of Reddit, particularly those stories where individuals reached out to Reddit for help, advice, or just truth off their chest, etc. And then they end up giving updates, so they're like complete stories. This one broke my heart. I cried so much, and I cried after reading it the first time, and then I also teared up the second time. But don't worry, it has a happy ending. I hope you enjoy it. Now onto the story. I'm trying to write this in a way so no one will be able to research and find out who I am, or who my brother is. But it's the internet and everyone's a super sleuth. My brother went missing years ago, and when I say missing, I mean that his case was declared one of those creepy unsolved mysteries. It was on the news. Distinctly remember my parents interviewing in our living room. I think I know what happened to him. I was very young when he went missing. I barely remember him, but I do remember that I loved him a lot. He would pull me around our block in a wagon. Most people his age didn't do that. The days before he disappeared, I remember him staying home and babysitting me. I stayed in my room and played Nintendo 64. Throughout the day, a guy came over. I remember him. He was older, almost our dad's age. My brother made me go into my room whenever I heard the doorbell. Later, after the guy left, my brother would ask me not to say anything about the guy. With my brain only being focused on video games and extra desserts at that age, I agreed. I didn't care, nor did I comprehend the gravity of the situation. The day before he disappeared, I remember the older guy came over. I was in the kitchen and remember looking up and seeing him kiss my brother. They hugged. They didn't care that I saw them. The older guy waved at me and I waved back. Then I kept watching cartoons. I fell asleep on the couch and woke up to my brother whispering outside of our front door. "Don't worry, he's asleep," he said. The older guy said something I couldn't hear. Then my brother said something that I couldn't make out, but I made out the words visit them, or maybe he said visit him. Either way, I know the word visit was in his sentence. The man raised his voice and said no. Then I heard plan and city. Then I fell asleep again. The next morning, the day he disappeared, my parents were at work. My brother was acting very strange. I remember he kept checking the clock. In the afternoon, I remember him picking me up and asking if I wanted to go on the wagon. I was hooked on Nintendo 64 by that time and said no. He almost begged me and I said no again. Then he told me that he was going to run to our neighbor's house for something. I don't even remember what he said. I said okay. He reminded me not to open the door for anyone, only mom and dad. I shouted at him, okay, because Super Mario was getting on my nerves and he wasn't helping. He gave me a hug and told me that he loved me and left. He never came back. All these years, decades later, and I think he was in love with that man. I know he was. The memories randomly came flooding back to me earlier. I'm not quite sure why, but it has been taking over my thoughts lately. I can't sleep because I keep thinking about it. I think my brother left with that man and they ran away together. Or maybe something worse happened, but I don't think that's the case. My freshman year of college, I was part of a sports team that got national recognition. I remember my team's picture was on ESPN and with our university's name. A few days later, I got mail at my dorm. It was a gift basket. I thought it was from my parents, so I didn't read the card. I threw it away immediately and ate what was in it, but it was nothing but candy. Nerds, Jolly Ranchers, Tootsie Rolls, and Hershey's Kisses. I called my dad and thanked him for the gift basket, and he said that he didn't send one. Neither did mom. Then I got to thinking, all of those candies were what I used to eat as a kid. Literally, all I ate for the earliest years of my life were those candies. I tried to find the card, but I couldn't. Then I began to think about how my brother would wheel me in the wagon to the gas station close to our home so that I could get candies after dinner. Even though it was punishable by death, a no-no from mom. Months later, during Christmas, I got an unmarked Christmas card. The only thing written on it was a smiley face. Since then, I've heard nothing. No one I know sent that card. I've never responded. I wonder every day if he's out there. I've never told anyone about this. When the police asked me what happened that day, I told them that he went to the neighbors because that's all that I remember, honestly. It destroyed my parents. My mom became addicted to painkillers, and my dad has had 3 extramarital affairs, which I know this tragedy is no way an excuse to cheat, but it sure didn't help. It has pretty much ruined our family, and maybe my brother knows what he did. Maybe he regrets it and knows he can't come back home. But if I could see him today, I would just want to tell him that he's always welcomed in my home. I love you so much, brother. We have so much catching up to do. Please come home. Please. It's 4 p.m. and I'm honestly drunk. These past few weeks have been insane. I posted it on here before. My brother went missing a long time ago. I thought he ran away from home. Long story short, I got into contact with some detectives that our family had known since my brother went missing. When I started asking questions, they told me that my brother was no longer on any missing persons registry. When I asked what that meant, they told me that he was removed as per my parents' request. I asked my parents, my dad actually. My dad ignored me. My mom told me my brother is alive and okay, as far as she knows. They found my brother years ago, a very, very long time ago, and found out that he was living with another man. He's gay and it disgusted my parents. He tried reaching out to them. They told him that they didn't want anything to do with him, and that I didn't remember him and wouldn't want to see him. I went ballistic. My parents weren't fazed by it. They sincerely hate my brother for who he is, for being gay. They kept him a secret from me all my life. My brother missed the birth of his nephew, he missed my wedding, graduation, everything, just because of my parents. They lied to me. I've been able to get a phone number and contact information from the police officer. My brother left it all open in case anyone from our family wanted to contact him. I still couldn't work up the nerve to call him. The address I have for him is across the country, but he's alive. My brother is alive. I'm drunk like crazy right now because I can't deal with any of this. I haven't talked to my parents in weeks, and I never plan on speaking to them again. Not for what they've done to me or my brother. This is real. It happened. It happened. It's happening right now. I don't know how to process this at all. My parents let me believe my brother was dead or kidnapped forever, when in reality he just ran away, and when he wanted to come back, they disowned him. I'm crying right now. How could they do that? Oh, for God's sakes. The day after I made my last post, I woke up and called into work. I told my wife, who's essentially my confidant, and I tell her everything, the whole story. She wasn't really surprised. She's not a fan of my parents much. But like many of you, she told me to call the number I was given for my brother immediately. She insisted on it. She took herself and my son out for the day together, so I could be alone to talk with him. I dialed the number about 7 times before I actually pressed the call button. It started ringing and I hung up. Then I got frustrated at myself and called the number back. It rang and I got voicemail, but it was the automated voice, not anyone else's. I didn't leave a voicemail. I thought the whole thing was ridiculous. I called my wife and told her to come home, but she refused until I talked to someone on the other end of the phone. About an hour of pacing and drinking 2 glasses of scotch at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I called the number again. It rang 3 times. I panicked, I hung up, but this time the number was calling me back. I swear to whatever God's above, I thought my heart was going to stop. I almost threw up right there, but I answered the call. The first thing I heard on the other end of the line was a guy laughing in the background. There was wind on the phone. The person on the other end was outside and it was windy. Who is it? It was his voice. I knew that voice. It was my brother, who had been gone my entire life. I covered my mouth with my shaking hands and just sat there. He kept asking me who it was. The guy in the background was trying to talk over him. He hung up on me. I called him back right away. He answered again. Me, being a creepy ass, the first thing I said after decades of not seeing him and thinking he was dead, I blurted, "I got your number." He asked me who I was and what I wanted. I said, "It's me." There was a really long pause. I thought the call had dropped. Then I heard him tell someone to turn the radio down and roll the windows up. The sound of the wind stopped. And then he asked me my name. I told him, and he said that I was lying. I told him I got his number from the Missing Children's Network and detectives. I heard him gasp. He asked me what color shoelaces he wore to a picnic when we were kids. I remember my mom getting mad at his orange color laces with blue shoes. It was the last time we were together as a family. I could tell he was crying. The first thing he asked me was, "Where are you?" And I told him I lived a few hours away from home. Without hesitating, he told me I'm coming. He went straight to the airport without any luggage, bought a plane ticket and flew straight to me. We stayed on the phone with each other the whole time. When he was walking through the gate, I knew who he was. He was middle-aged, salt and pepper hair, muscular. He looks just like our dad, only better. I know that if I told him that would make him real mad. I literally pushed an old lady out of the way and just hugged him. He was 2 inches taller than me. He was able to pick me up. He was crying. I was crying. I was having a breakdown. We went to the bar at the airport. He wouldn't let me out of his sight. He kept holding onto my arm. He kept telling me how unreal it all was. He apologized to me. He kept crying, telling me he felt horrible. I told him to forget everything and tell me about his life. He's married. His husband is a doctor, a pediatric oncologist. He lives in the Pacific Northwest. They have 2 children, girls, 12 and 8. He works as a legal consultant and has his own firm. He has an amazing life. He told me that he thought that I hated him and wanted nothing to do with him. We sat at the bar for hours, literal hours. I think we sat for about 6 hours before I begged him to come home and meet my wife. We got home and my wife was a mess. She hugged him and insisted that he stay with us. At this point, his husband was going insane and kept calling him. He had no idea what was going on. He thought he had eloped or something. It was crazy for a couple of days until everything was explained and out in the open. My son and my brother were like 2 peas in a pod. Honestly, I never wanted children. My son was an amazing accident, but I'm not good with kids. I'm always afraid I'm going to break them, but my brother is a pro. Kids love him. He stayed with us for 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks, everything about my life changed. His husband and 2 daughters flew in to stay with us. My brother-in-law and my 2 nieces. My family. They were my family. They are my family. My brother wants my wife and I to move to be closer to him. My wife is on board. I work as a professor at a university and I've already started to send out feelers to see if there are any open positions. I've found one that's actually tenured and higher pay. I do not plan on forgiving my parents, but my brother still loves them. He went by their house and knocked the door. My father shut the door in his face. My mother gave him a hug and told him to take care of himself. Then she shut him out. I can't forgive them for that. I have no reason to stay close to them. I want to be with my family. I want to make up for all the lost time. It's 2 a.m. right now and I'm drinking a glass full of scotch and grading papers. My beautiful, wonderful, smart, amazing wife is asleep on the couch. She likes to watch me grade papers. My son is asleep in his room, cuddled with all his stuffed animals his uncle bought him. And I'm here, so happy, so fulfilled, knowing that my family has grown and doubled in size so suddenly. My heart is happy. I'm so happy right now. Reddit, I'm so happy. Everything in my life has changed in the last 10 months. Honestly, I don't know what to say. I want to apologize for neglecting this account. I've been busy. I want to fill you all in on what's been going on in my life. I owe everyone who has messaged me and commented that much, at the very least. My wife, son, and myself have moved. Not exactly to the same region of the country as my brother and his family, but much closer to him. I got a new job teaching at a new university months ago. While it's not a tenured position, it gives me the option to do research, which is my favorite thing to do. My brother-in-law's family has had many interesting discussions with each other, trying to describe what has happened between my brother and I. They were a pretty open-minded and accepting family, so to hear what we have been going through was absolutely shocking to them. My brother never told his husband the truth about his life, only that he, quote-unquote, didn't speak to his family anymore. Nevertheless, they welcomed me and my family with open arms when we came to visit. It was like we'd always been a part of their family. I feel content knowing that they are my family. When my brother ran away with his first boyfriend, he was verging on 18. He has elaborated and told me that the relationship with the man was abusive, and when he tried to leave him and return home, our parents would not let him. So he was forced to stay with a horrible man because he had nowhere else to go until he moved away to college. This deepened my anger for my parents, but my brother, still to this day, has this ridiculous sense of hope and optimism. I love that about him because I don't have that. My brother and I are two very different people, but in a way that works well. We reflected on my teenage years and I filled him in on what happened with my life. My brother is quiet and observant. He always watches before he intervenes. He's soft-spoken and gently objects when someone says something he doesn't agree with. He's patient, kind, and optimistic, as I've said. He has a very loving heart, so I think that's why he has an unrelenting faith in our parents. Me, on the other hand, I'm abrasive, impatient, and quick to jump to conclusions. My wife wanted me to add about me. Doesn't separate laundry, refuses to mop the floor, and can't properly change the oil. Despite being very different, we have this uncanny ability to be thinking the same thing. Even though we've been separated for years, we can still give each other the look and know exactly what the other is plotting. My brother has been able to create a spectacular life for himself, all on his own. One thing I struggle with is knowing that he went through more than half of his life by himself, putting himself through college and law school all alone. The more he filled me in about the years away from our parents, the more angry I became. I severed communication with my parents months ago, after the last time I posted on here, and it has done wonders for my own mental health. But then the election happened a few weeks ago. In all honesty, I don't even have words to summarize what this presidential election was. I don't want to make this political, but this whole thing, by its nature, is political and serves a great purpose. I've read messages on here of people saying that they too have been disowned by family for being gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or other identifying. I've heard so many stories from Redditors across the country, telling me that they're scared, alone, afraid, every single day of their lives, all because of who they fundamentally are. The day after the election, my brother and his husband were devastated. My wife, who's a black woman, was devastated. It's not just Donald Trump himself, it's his supporters, followers, and the ideology that took hold on so many people. Where I come from, Donald Trump's hateful rhetoric on registering Muslims and disenfranchising LGBTQ+ and minoritized people were hurled as something genius and revolutionary. But to me, it is a personal attack on my family. I have been in shock and disgusted for days. I had to explain to my son what it all meant and why the world is not always a good place. I had to have the same conversation with him when his grandparents did not like him because of his dark skin. The day after the election, however, I got a call from my mother. I didn't answer it because I was in class, but she left a voicemail and said that she would like to talk at my earliest convenience. I thought on it, still enraged, but decided to call her back, more out of curiosity than a desire to speak with her. When we began our conversation, she asked how I was doing. My answers were short, one-worded. She jumped right in, and I could tell she was uncomfortable. She apologized, but she apologized only to me. I wasn't fazed by this. I told my mother that she should talk to my brother, and unless she did that, then she needed to not call me anymore. I told my brother that our mother had called and apologized, and the look on his face was pure happiness. I can't even begin to describe it all to you. It was as if all his dreams had come true. My brother called our mother, and she, to my surprise, picked up. They had a short conversation, and my brother's happy glow had dimmed somewhat when he got off the phone. He told me that she said that, given the election results, she had only wanted to speak to me. I guess alluded to the fact that I'm a white, straight male, the quote-unquote normal son, in an effort to repair the family, and that we all, me, my mom and dad, not my brother, need each other now. She also went on to say she does not approve of what my brother does, but she said that she had read up on his lifestyle and recommends conversion therapy. My brother ended the conversation with a very gentle, "I'm sorry, Mom, but I can't do that. I love you, good night." I think my brother has been broken these last few weeks, and the hope and optimism that naturally carries him through life has been eradicated. He's buried himself in work and ignores any discussion about our family. My wife is a counselor, and she normally avoids counseling people she doesn't work with, but she's told me that the only thing I can do for my brother at this point is to be there for him and to never let him be alone again. Like I said before though, I have a tendency to lash out and be aggressive. Yesterday, while stewing on my own rage about my parents, I called my brother, and when she answered the phone, I just began screaming into my phone. I unleashed a lot of things, and I remember crying while I did so, because I was so enraged. I told her how much she hurt my brother, her son, and how she put his life in danger, all for her ideology. I told her how unfair and upsetting it is that her and my dad would do this to their own children, to my brother, and how it's criminal and how they should be punished. When I finished screaming, I was going to hang up because she miraculously hadn't during my 10-minute tirade, but she cut in with a quiet, "He sounds grown." My brother acknowledged my brother's existence with that short sentence, then went on with, "I'm so sorry, let me speak to him, okay?" But I didn't. I hung up, then I blocked her number. I don't know what she wanted to say, but I'm afraid it's something that could damage my brother further. We're currently staying with him for Thanksgiving. My view right now is this. My wife and my brother-in-law are sitting on the living room floor trying to assemble an IKEA shelf. My son is sitting beside me watching cartoons and keeps telling his mother and uncle to shush. And my brother is in the kitchen washing dishes. This is the life that people want to see destroyed, taken away, and converted. This is a life I'm so grateful to have, and it's filled with people that this world is lucky to have on its surface. I haven't told my brother that our mom tried to call, and I don't want to. I don't think that there's a point. I just want to spend as much time and energy as I can trying to love my brother, my family, my small little slices of bliss. This is my heaven. This is the life I would proudly defend against hate and intolerance and bigotry. I'm so lucky to have this life, these people, and this happiness, and I will never stop fighting for it. So guys, what did you think about the story? Honestly, it was so heartbreaking, and the love that OP has for his brother basically came through every single post that he made. I hope that he's alright. It's been a few years and he hasn't updated, so I'm hoping that everything is alright and that they have their own happily ever after. Thank you so much for tuning into today's story. I hope you have a wonderful day, and please subscribe for more stories from Reddit.